I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today, I have with me, of course, we're still in our virtual studio, but she is a woman that I have respected for quite some time. She is unapologetic about her passion as an educator, definitely committed to that profession, and just consistently goes above and beyond for the institution and for the students that we work so very hard to serve. She is none other than Dr. Erica DeCuir. Thank you, Dr. DeCuir, for joining me today. And yes, and I've not, I don't know that I've ever said that to you face to face, but I have always had the utmost respect. I've been in a couple settings with you, and I have seen you take individuals to task who did not demonstrate or exemplify the requisite and necessary passion and level of excellence to educating students. And I have always been impressed with that. So I wanted to formally say thank you for that, and that I applaud you for that.
Thank you. I am so happy to hear that. I appreciate your words of sentiment, and please know that the feeling is mutual. I've also respected you and your authority and wearing your many hats. And I'm happy that I can contribute to the mission of Albany State University in any way that I can.
Yes, you do it very well. Tell our viewers a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you started down this pathway.
I am from New Orleans, Louisiana. I was born and raised in New Orleans. And I actually was introduced to the field of education as a high school student. I was tapped to do some peer tutoring and peer mentoring for some students that was at my high school, reviewing their high school graduation essays. And I worked with a teacher and another student, and we created a program called Students at the Center, where we will focus on student-centered teaching as opposed to more of the lecture-driven teaching. And we will work with students in small groups, using those who were stronger in the classroom to support those who were a little bit weaker. And we set them up as stations and floated around the room like teaching assistants. That was my first introduction to teaching and education. That continued, and when I went to college, I used teaching and tutoring and after-school programs to support me through my own college experience and college degree through graduate school, and decided that education was going to be the route for me. And now I work as a teacher educator, and I work to train new teachers, specifically for middle grades education and secondary education in hard-to-fill teaching areas such as math and science and middle school education. And it is the joy of my life, along with, of course, being here at ASU. I always joke that even though I did not graduate from an HBCU, this is my HBCU. So my experience took me all over the country and all over the world, working in various educational settings, from New York to St. Louis to New Orleans, of course, to Kenya, where I studied abroad for a year and worked at a school. And I've had a variety of different experiences in the field of education, but I'm here at ASU, and this is my HBCU.
Excellent, excellent. Well, your experiences and your broad travel portfolio is certainly exemplified in each of your daily actions with the engagement with their colleagues and certainly with our students. And so we thank you for that. I am curious, where did you do your undergraduate and graduate work?
I completed my undergraduate degree at Washington University in St. Louis, my master's degree at Columbia University, and doctorate at Georgia State University, where I was an urban research fellow. So I worked as one of the fellows in the College of Education, and it was a great experience because that brought me into educational research, introduced me to the doctoral program, and I worked there as a clinical assistant professor and then completed my doctorate as I was at Georgia State. So it was a great experience to see both the teaching side of it and, of course, the practitioner side, but then to delve into the research and how research applications drive policy in American schools. And so that was a great experience to prepare me for my role as a professor.
So, Dr. DeCuir, I understand a few years back that you and a couple colleagues secured a grant called the Noyce grant. Tell the viewers a little bit about that and the students that it will impact here at Albany State.
Sure. The Noyce Grant is a federally funded program to recruit and train STEM professionals, as well as career changers with an undergraduate degree in a STEM field, and encourage them to bring their skills and the applications of science and mathematics that they have obtained in their career fields and apply them into the classroom in order to support those students in high need schools who in many cases are in desperately need of highly qualified and trained STEM teachers. The Noyce Grant is a 5-year grant because the aim is not only to recruit and train these new STEM teachers, but to retain them in the classroom for a period of no less than 4 years. And as many people know, even there is one task with recruiting and training teachers, but then there's a completely different task of retaining them and keeping them in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I am a member of the Noyce team. I am the co-PI on the grant. Dr. Doreen Metlin is the principal investigator or PI of the grant, and Rich Foreman is the additional co-PI on the grant. We work together as a Noyce team, and we have obtained this grant in order to support the teacher preparation program, as well as our science courses and science department here at Albany State University to encourage those students with a STEM background or interested in teaching one of the STEM fields to become one of those STEM teachers in the field and to stay there and be retained in the school system so that we can fulfill the teaching shortage that we have, not only in Southwest Georgia, but throughout the country in regards to STEM educators.
Excellent. I was thinking as you were sharing the background and who was involved and some outstanding colleagues that you're working with. And I know you all make up a really great team. And so you're absolutely right. We hear this all the time. But what a novel approach to this, that now you have individuals that have the actual practical application and the day-to-day experience coming before the students, preparing those individuals for those fields in STEM, because it's one thing to come in and just teach the concepts, but then having touched it and experienced it and share their stories as it relates to the actual application of those disciplines takes it to a whole different level. And you're absolutely right. We talk about the need and the constant advances as it relates to those different STEM disciplines, but then couple that with the shortage. And so the whole situation becomes that much more exacerbated, if you will. And so I absolutely love that approach. How are you going about recruiting those individuals into coming into the program?
We're using a marketing campaign. We are advertising in many of the social media networks. We're also advertising in traditional newspaper and print sources. We are working very closely with the Office of Institutional Effectiveness in order to identify those graduates of ASU who have graduated in the past with a STEM degree and to encourage them to come back for the master's and maybe apply that STEM degree to a teaching field and become STEM certified as a part of the Noyce program. So I am very happy to report that so far, about half of those candidates who we have accepted into the Noyce program as Noyce Fellows are our undergraduate students who have graduated with a STEM degree. And they think, well, I might want to consider teaching. I've always had a love and passion for children. This is something that I would want to do. We have quite a few of people who have worked in labs. They graduated in science, in either chemistry or in biology, begin working in a lab and realize that spending 12 hours a day in a lab is not how they want to live their lives in their career, and decided to change and to come into the teaching field. We have had one who is a mathematician who was working in a company and looking and crunching a lot of numbers and working through statistics and realized that maybe teaching would be a better fit for her, and teaching the math and grasping the math and working with some students and helping them to become excited about math was something that is what her passion was. So we have worked very closely with our institutional departments here at ASU, from marketing and promotions, as well as institutional effectiveness, to make sure that we recruit the top students from our institution in those STEM fields. And we also recruit from outside of the institution with those people who might be career changers. And we do that through our social media and print and a lot of networking among other HBCUs. For example, we found out the general contacts for all of the STEM professors at the major HBCUs around the country and send out a personal invitation to them and to their departments to say, we have this great program. If you have someone who is graduating in a STEM field and would like to be a teacher, this is a way to provide them with some monies and some support for them to realize their dream. So throughout those different avenues, we have been able to obtain and curate a very strong pool of applicants for our ASU Noyce Fellows.
It sounds like it. And I'm curious, how are you connecting with school systems? Do you have some feeder institutions that you're working with or feeder systems that you're working with?
Sure. A part of the grant was to obtain community and school support. So what we call is the local educational agencies or LEAs. That was a part of the grant. We could not obtain the grant without having a letter of support from the school system that we are working with primarily, which is Dougherty County Schools, which is the county seat of Albany State University. But then we also have received letters of support from the surrounding counties as well in order to provide them with some help in trying to recruit and train their own STEM teachers. So we worked with them in obtaining the grant. And then we're working with them after the grant because our fellows, they're going to receive a master's degree with teacher certification. And a part of receiving that teacher certification, you have to complete clinical experiences in the school. So we will be placing these fellows, and it's a total of 12 teaching fellows that we are welcoming for this cohort for this year. We would take those fellows and place them in area schools where they will meet with a cooperating teacher. They will gain some practical experience on applying their knowledge to a teaching environment. They will learn other things that we can't necessarily teach in the classroom, such as classroom management and negotiating your grade book and having conversations with your principal, just the practical aspects of being a teacher. And then the hope is after they finish with their clinical experiences in either the local school system or the surrounding school districts, that they will remain there as a STEM teacher in that school and eventually a STEM leader. And if they don't remain here in the local Albany area, that they remain within the state of Georgia in order to support STEM education throughout the state of Georgia. Because what they are earning is a teaching certificate in the state of Georgia. So we are recruiting and we're training and retaining teachers who are either going to be supportive and remain here in the Dougherty County school system or in the surrounding school districts, or perhaps in the Metro Atlanta school districts, but they will be supporting Georgia students in Georgia schools.
Great. And as you mentioned earlier, the need is so pronounced across the country. But then when you start looking at rural states, or areas that are rural, the need becomes that much more significant. And I love the approach and the practical application and gaining other skills that allow you to be successful within the classroom. Tell our viewers how they can get in contact with you if they're interested in taking advantage of this great opportunity.
Anyone who is interested in this opportunity, I have to add one important note. That it provides for each of the Noyce Fellows, it provides a total funding package of $50,000 over 5 years. It's a fully funded master's degree in secondary education with teaching certification in either mathematics or science education. And it provides a salary supplement upon graduation for 4 years thereafter as a little carrot for helping you to remain in the school system. So we provide what's called induction support along the lines of a professional learning community, support with training, wellness, and mindfulness. We provide that level of support as they transition to a full-time teacher. But then we also provide a salary supplement for the next 4 years. in order to support them. And this will be on top of their regular teaching salary that they would receive as a full-time teacher. If they are interested in this program, it's a wonderful, wonderful, I believe, opportunity specifically for our students who have graduated from Albany State University and who are already very familiar with the area and who are very familiar with the school system and the schools that we serve. If you are interested in this opportunity, please email me. I am Erica, ERICA, .DECUIR @asurams.edu. You can also find me in the directory for Albany State. I am listed under the School of Education. So you can reach me at erica.dequeer @asurams.edu. You can look in the directory and find me under the School of Education, or you may call me at 229-500-2143. And if you are sending an email, please in the email line, write that you are interested in the Noyce Teaching Fellows program so that we can give you the most appropriate and accurate information as quickly as possible.
Excellent. And we'll have our producers include that information, your contact information in the lower thirds. Before we quickly wrap up, I'm curious, you are obviously a very learned woman and very well read. Share with the viewers a book that has most impacted your life outside of your preferred religious text that you find yourself going back to or reminiscing about.
The book is entitled In Search of Our Mother's Gardens by Alice Walker.
Alice Walker.
And isn't she awesome? She is awesome. Yeah. And I would encourage any of the viewers who have never read this book to pick it up as soon as they can. I read this book in high school. I was introduced to it in high school. And it was the first time I had seen such a lovely piece of writing that was very particular and unique and very respectful and in awe of the Black woman experience.
Yes.
And she writes, and when she writes, it is in awe of Black women in America. And that was the first time I had read a piece of that. And it was very empowering to me. And the writing was just beautiful. I love beautiful writing. It was very well written, with a lot of the metaphors, a lot of the analogies. And I graduated in history. I was a history major. So she interweaves these historical pieces and these historical scenarios and vignettes into current discourse on, sociology in America, which is not very easy to do. So it would definitely be that book. It introduced me to literature. She opened me up to people like Toni Morrison,
Zora Neale
Hurston. So that was my first introduction to reading and finding those really classic literary scholars and creating my own library. And that brought me into a lot of different genres, from Caribbean literature. I did a whole English literature fix, but just how do you find those really good writers in the various genres and the various pieces and timelines in history. And you can create a nice little thematic read for yourself and really capture the genre and capture the time period in a very unique way. So it would be In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, and such a tribute to Black women that she has.
I would agree. When you said it, my heart leaped. It too is one of my favorites, and I read it in high school. And as I said, then she introduced me to Zora Neale Hurston, who is just, oh my gosh, a phenom on so many different levels. And you also made me think it's time for me to go pick up a couple books from authors of that caliber. J. California Cooper comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll have
books and many others.
Yeah. We'll have to speak offline and figure out what we can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For students. It's such a rich collection of literature.
I would love to do that. And one of the things that I'm working on, whenever I get that 25th hour in the day, I say, I am working on curating just a list for high school students, because one of the things that we see in a lot of high school courses is a shift to the contemporary works, which are really good. Contemporary works are good. But there is just such beauty in some of the classic works that we were just talking about that were written, and it gives them a really good and strong understanding of great writing.
Yes.
Great writing. So I would love to talk offline about what we can do for our students at ASU, as well as high school students in the area, to be able to curate a list of these really good, magnificent books that have made an imprint on our lives. And I'm sure it'll make an imprint on theirs as well.
Indeed. It's time for me to wrap up. And this was such a very rich conversation. Thank you so much for all that you do for Albany State University. I'm excited about this Noyce grant. Know that you are always welcome to come back, and I'll shoot you an email afterwards. Let's start talking about how we can weave the broad, rich history of certainly African-American and Black women authors here into the curriculum here at Albany State. But congratulations on the grant. I know it will be a pivotal point in Albany State's history and making an impact in K through 12 systems across the country.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all that you do. And we are very, very happy about this new grant, and very happy for what it's going to contribute to Albany State University. So thank you always for your support for myself and the School of Education.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Viewers, thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I look forward to seeing you next time.